Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
Please do subscribe, guys. Both channels, Evolutionary Energy Arts and EEARTS. And hopefully today we'll go over that 18,000 subscriber mark. And starting over here, we see Federal Appeals Court rules that the Obama-era DACA program is illegal, but says 600,000 already in U.S. can stay. The fact is, there are millions of people in the U.S. that we have no idea who they are. No idea at all. And, if this was a different world, it would be fine. And at some point in time, I don't think there will be borders, but it won't be under the way that the controllers want it to be, under their control. As we know, it's always been a divide and conquer scenario going on. And the sad truth is that so many people inside the country are actually using the premise of looking for opportunities, better opportunities, as a ruse, really, because there are so many that are here just for military operations when the time is right. And that might only be 1% of the total. Maybe it's less than that. Maybe it's 5% of the total that have crossed into the U.S. illegally. We don't know. But at the same time, we do know that the plan is there to shift power from the U.S. to China and from, the NATO countries to the east, because there's a much bigger control system already in place in those systems like we see out of China.
And it's so frustrating too, because you guys who listen to us, we can all see it, that this system is broken. It's not working. There's so many people in power that have power that can do things, and the things that they do are simply holding up their system so that they can remain with their own power. And it's like, well, when is anybody going to do anything? The sad truth about it is, as long as people are getting up to go vote and holding up that system, nothing's going to happen. But what we can do is talk together, work together, manifest together, because our thoughts and our energy make a difference.
We're going to have to take back the planet one small piece of land at a time, basically. And break it down into smaller bits is the only way to regain freedom. Regain freedom at a local level and then have that expand outwards. And we can clearly see that what's coming here is a civil/revolutionary uprising, because, regardless of whether the left's in power or the right's in power, it's always the controllers in power. And until we recognize that, we're missing the point. And there's still people too that just don't get the mainstream aspects of some things that are so fundamental in their life. They might not trust Fox News or MSNBC, but they still trust other things that have given a distortion to the real nature of the universe. So again, this is all the controller's system. And meanwhile, illegal immigrants arrested for looting after Hurricane Ian, as Florida sheriff issues new warning. Authorities in Lee County, Florida confirmed Tuesday that 3 people who were arrested for looting were illegal immigrants. And, they're young people again. Now, are these people that are opportunists? Are they part of the infiltration that's part of a bigger plan? Hard to say. You would have to look at each case on its own. There are always people that will take advantage of the misery of others, unfortunately. And then there's also the bigger plan that's underway.
We have that in the 3D, and we have that, in different realms too, those entities that take advantage. And that's something that we can never really let our guard down with.
Absolutely. Telegram CEO issues warning about WhatsApp security. Mobile messenger service is a surveillance tool and will never be safe for users, Pavel Durov claimed. Anything that you use your smartphone for can be watched by others. This is why we have Smart TVs. We could turn off things and they'll still be recording. They'll turn on by themselves remotely. This whole system is about watching every single person to identify those that are going to be a problem at some point, and then they'll know what to do with who. When it gets to that point that the entire world has that CCP system in place. This is all they've been doing, is gathering. And hey, everybody, hey, there's this great new app. We should go over there. It's secure. No, nothing's secure. And Proton Mail, for instance. We had gotten Proton Mail in the hopes that it would seem to be more secure, but it doesn't seem to be more secure at all. It seems to be worse in some ways. I get way more spam and phishing attempts on that than I do on Gmail, government mail. And again, we have a purpose, and our purpose is trying to wake up as many as possible and trying to shift the paradigm. And then, once we get past the collapse of the power structure, which is going to happen, they know it's going to happen. They just want as many people to volunteer to come along with them for, that crash. Then it'll be restructuring and helping people to rebuild in a different way, and much more of a grassroots way in small communities. It's going to be small communities. The rebuilding is going to look more like tribes, so to speak, of people coming together, like-minded people in small areas coming together. And that could be what can help many people get through these times in the first place. But we should recognize anytime we use any controller technology, which is pretty much every phone ever built, every computer ever built, you're being watched. It's all about watching you and assessing you for later on. Russia ready to send gas to Europe via Nord Stream 2. Supplies are possible through the undamaged string of the pipeline, according to Russia's deputy prime minister. As we're getting closer to the cold weather, and obviously already people are being faced with an inability to pay, and in many places people are burning their utility bills. We're going to see what's going to happen with that. We're heading into a much, much tougher time. It's all part of their planned change in the power structure. And here we see from Zero Hedge, shunned Biden flip-flops on dealing with dictator Maduro. Offers Venezuela a deal for crude production hike. Because having been shunned by the Saudis, who are now colluding with Russia to hurt low-income countries, according to the White House, Biden has lurched all the way to negotiating with another dictator. So the Biden administration proposed a deal that will ease sanctions on Venezuela. Remember when in Venezuela people were out there taking down cows in fields wherever they could to bring home food for their family? It got that bad. I mean, literally, randomly butchering cows, just regular old people trying to bring home some food for their people. This is how bad that situation was. Because of the sanctions, Venezuela, the average person suffered tremendously. And you remember Juan Guaido, who was recognized as being the legal, proper U.S. puppet on the throne. And it never happened. It never happened. In fact, the last I saw of him, he was being driven out of a restaurant where the people recognized him, and he had to flee for his own security. And now they're looking to deal with Venezuela. That shows you. Now, of course, 46 knows this is part of the plan. It's totally part of the plan. This, apparent flip-flopping is just another shift in the power structure. OPEC's action is a testimony to a staggering U.S. geopolitical and geoeconomic error. It's not an error. This is just part of the plan. Again, can they be that stupid? Is 46 really that stupid? Well, he doesn't seem too intelligent, but he doesn't have to be. He's not making any decisions. And, for those of you that say, you never pick on 45, yeah, well, 45 has a massive inflated ego. Just listen to him. Me, I. Obviously, again, anybody that's a billionaire doesn't really care about you. We need to get that through. You want real change, then we need a total change of the system. Swapping one billionaire for a different millionaire ain't going to do anything. It's not going to do anything. The whole system has been completely rigged for a very long time, not just the last, 4 years or so.
Mm-hmm. It does make it really tough, but I mean, it starts within us right where we're at. And we, as a one person, as a single entity, need to make the decision that we want something different and start creating that for yourself inside your home, inside your soul, because that's where it starts. That impact of energy that's going to radiate out starts with your single person. So even though we can spread the truth and we can put stuff out there, it's still up to each and every individual to take that first step to make the change for themselves. And I always like to say, you start with your health. I mean, that's the first thing that we're going to need to not rely on the system is your own health.
Absolutely. So we see OPEC again lined up with Russia to slash output by 2 million barrels. Meanwhile, our strategic reserves are being depleted. Strategic reserves are there in time of chaos and warfare. Again, wars are won or lost with resupplying your soldiers. And if you can't move what you need to move from point A to point B because you have no fuel to move anything, you're not going to win the war. This is all part of the plan. They don't want NATO to win the war. They right now are making it look like Russia is a pansy. This is totally done on purpose. Because the real war is not necessarily going to be fought over there. It's going to be here. And that's the thing that people need to realize is that it's coming here. They've already told us this in Babylon the Great's destruction. Again, it's part of their playbook. Somebody had commented and said, was King James the head of all the Masonic lodges before he commenced the writing of the King James Version of the Bible? And again, it's the bloodlines. He was always of that bloodline. He was born into the controller families. He's always been part of this picture. And because I'm looking at this too, by the way, yesterday was all about oil, geopolitics, and geostrategic errors. And in the background, domestic politics, accepting past errors and trying to make amends for them. Ironically, it all happened on Yom Kippur, the Jewish Day of Atonement. Atonement, which back in 1973 jump-started a Middle East war and then the energy crisis that led to the collapse of the post-World War II Western political economy model and ushered in global neoliberalism. So again, we see the use, and I see it in comments. People cannot get the Abrahamic tradition out of their minds. They can't think without the Abrahamic tradition popping up. Even if you're not really religious, it's still in your mind. It's still programming in your mind. That system has been brought to Earth from Mars, and that might sound kind of crazy, but the last thing we're going to be looking at is kind of crazy too. When you look at it, that system pops up out of nowhere, really. If you really look closely, it's taken from other systems and becomes the dominant world belief system. Because again, Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, they all got the same root, the Abrahamic tradition. And, so they always use these times of years, the times of the year. They use the solstices, they use the equinoxes, they use the positioning of planets and the stars to their advantage. And we have a Ukrainian central banker hit with embezzlement charges after resigning for health reasons. Yeah. The corruption is just enormous. And the corruption in Ukraine is mammoth. Is it any surprise that Ukraine is kind of like a focal point for 46's family? Is there any surprise? I mean, the fiasco of 46's son, it's just mind-blowing. And it's in your face. It's purposely in your face. It's a double middle finger to everybody. It's like, haha, you can't do anything.
It's pretty rough, really.
it's on purpose. They want us antagonized. I mean, things are so much of a fiasco that you have Fort Myers raising a Ukrainian flag because maybe they'll get more aid.
Well, they figured something out. That's good.
Well, it seems likely, because billions are going into Ukraine. Why? Well, because for one, they're supplying an endless supply of fodder, which does cause a lot of pain and suffering, a lot of emotional anguish and grief for all those people on both sides that are being killed. And that's loosh, that does feed certain very, very dark and truly demonic entities. It also makes the whole power structure richer, again, the military-industrial complex. And it is also economically taxing everybody at a time, when we are sorely in need of every single penny just to put food on the table and keep the house warm or cool. It's all purposeful. Also, again, lowering the strategic reserves, lowering the amount of weapons that are available. It's all planned because the West and NATO is not supposed to win this conflict. And right now they're selling it that Russia is losing, but the real battle hasn't started yet. So what is this? Yeah, we've seen a lot of those. Those are big flying triangles. Mm-hmm. And so it very well, most likely, it does have humans on it, but it might also have some non-humans.
Mm-hmm. Well, oftentimes they do work with different kinds of entities here on this planet in this 3D realm.
Absolutely. And over here, perhaps, let's check out this one. California, by the way.
You got bombs? Where? I got cut. What is that up there? It's a blimp? I don't know. Why would a blimp be over the ocean?
I gotta say that sounds very innocent. It sounds like a father that just has his little one out at the beach. He hasn't photoshopped anything. When we blow it up, it could be blimpish shaped, but it looks more cigar shaped to me. To me, this looks a lot more like what you'll find reptilians and grays on.
This one was a little bit different. When I looked to see inside of this one, it did have, the energies were fuzzy. They were gray and they were fuzzy and they were blurred out. And I do believe they do that deliberately.
Yeah, they can kind of cloak themselves. Absolutely. And how about this one? This is in France. This is pretty cool.
Good. Ce que vous avez là? Un ange. Ah, vous avez un truc hier. On dirait une météorite. C'est quoi ça? Il est énorme. C'est une comète ça, non? Non. On dirait une espèce de comète. Non, c'est une comète, c'est quoi? C'est quoi ça? Appelle la loi. Dis, ça. Magnifique. C'est quoi il fait? Mon camouflage. Yeah, mon camouflage. On a la fait devant, regarde, on a la fait devant aussi. Oh, ouais, aussi. Regarde, on a la fait sur le côté. C'est un missile, ça, non? Si, on dirait. Non, c'est un vaisseau, ça, non? Yeah! Fais ça. Non, c'est quoi ça? Il y a un autre truc blanc. Mais c'est quoi ça? Filmez. c'est un vaisseau. Regarde sur le côté, il y a un truc en métallique. Regarde.
Ah ouais. Un vaisseau.
Filmez. Salut. Filmez.
Certainly interesting, is it not?
Very, very curious there.
You know, it makes me think about this. Now, our dear sister Tammy, hey Tammy,
Hey, Tammy.
said, I just had to text you guys because do you know there's 2 moons up? Now, I didn't go out and look.
No,
We were
in bed.
we were in bed. We're that old couple that's in bed by 8 p.m. Of course, we tend to get up before the sun gets up, but still we didn't get to see it. But some people got this phenomenon on camera. Now again, Tammy's in the central US, and this is from, I think, Pakistan. Check this out. So is that just his lens or refraction on the lens? Well, coincidentally, we know of one person other that saw this, and other people got this too. So I don't think it's, their lens, as you see 2 moons. Isn't that curious? Now, we spoke many times, and again, it could be maybe, I don't know, multiple hallucinations. If it wasn't for Tammy saying it, I would have just looked at these 2 and might not have even shared it, honestly, because, you see that stuff all the time. But the fact that she brought it up and said, guys, I'm looking at 2 moons.
Yeah.
Now, I think it was 2017, maybe it was 2018, but I saw in North Carolina with another person the moon go blank. And it blew my mind. I looked at the other person. They looked at me. We both kind of had open mouths. And then we looked back up and it was still blank. And then all of a sudden the craters were back. But we have gotten, again, from the guides that the moon in reality is a 4th density object. It's a 4th density object that was put here by the Anunnaki, and it's basically a station. And we've also gotten that, all the lunar missions that we've seen are all bunk. They are all basically scripted and filmed in other places. And you even got Stanley Kubrick coming out and saying he did it. Yet also there are peoples all over the world. There are people from the area of the Etruscans in Italy that remember a time before the moon was there. There's a tribe in Africa that remembers a time before the moon was there, and they say the moon was put there by 2 brothers that are always warring with each other. And that sounds awful like Enlil and Enki. But there's many other indigenous people that remember a time before the moon was in place. And we've gotten that from the guides, that yes, the moon was put in place. In actuality, the moon being there kind of keeps the Earth in the 23.5 degree tilt that it's at right now. It kind of makes the weather more violent. It's that biblical thing where you have the Garden of Eden before and then after. It's no longer a Garden of Eden. You're going to struggle for food. The weather's going to be brutal. There's going to be all sorts of pests and things that are going to develop all sorts of hindrances to make life harder because of the moon. And so, if it isn't really there and it's just a hologram projecting on top of what's actually a 4th density object, so it wouldn't be visible to us until maybe soon, because there's going to be a lot of things visible soon that have always been there, but not in a 3D sense. They're 4D. And in reality, when we asked about the solar system, how many planets really are there? Because technically there's either 8 or 9, whether you're classifying Pluto, and then you could throw Nibiru into the mix. But again, Nibiru is not technically always visible to the eye. But the visible part of it that Sitchin never really caught was the precession of the equinoxes, the cycle of the yugas. It's not that Nibiru goes so far out that we can't see it and then comes back. It's that the vibration of Earth changes, and we actually go down to a lower density than you can see the 4th density Nibiru at, and now we're rising back up so that Nibiru is going to become visible to us. And we've gotten that it's probably around 2040 that it'll be completely visible to everybody, and maybe a little earlier, maybe a little bit later, but somewhere in that time frame. And that there's also a planet where the ant people that helped the Hopi go down into the earth to avert the cataclysm, and then said, okay guys, you could come back up to the surface. And we did have our own encounter with ant people when we were in New Mexico. In meditation, in a meditative state. They came to us when we were in New Mexico, and it was a blessing to be so far removed from any sort of power sources and buzzing 5G towers, and it made everything much, much easier as far as the meditation goes. And they're very benevolent beings, and they actually live on a planet that's closer to us than Venus or Mars. It's just that it's 4D. And we will be able to see it probably within 20 years.
Mm-hmm. And there's just so many things that we are starting to perceive, but it hasn't come into our direct line of vision. And that place of 3D tangibility that most people find acceptable, because science has trained our minds to say, well, if it's in front of you and you can use your senses on it, well, then it's real. But all of that information is changing. All of those rules that we thought we knew growing up, that they're just not so. And we're all kind of, walking this path together. We're all like little blind kids, helping each other to find our way home.
You think about all those people that have gotten photographs of what they believe is Planet X, Nibiru, the Nemesis system. A lot of it could be because of the people taking the photograph's own vibration and frequency, and being able to capture a glimpse of it. All these different things that we've seen over the last 6 years, and especially I feel, it's because we're really towing the line between 2 different densities right now, and literally our toes are dipping into 4th density. The rest of us is soon to follow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're definitely walking between worlds right now, and it can be very, very confusing.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Did you want to speak any more on, or do you want to save that for the second?
Yeah, can we save it for the second part?
Okay. We're going to give you another video today a little bit later, and we'll talk about the issues that people are going through in a little bit more detail, because believe me, everybody is going through changes related to the changes that we're experiencing with the leaving of the Kali Yuga and the ascension process.
Yes, ascension. We want to talk about ascension symptoms and, the not so good parts of it.
Well, I mean, ultimately it's good, but it's just part of what we have to work through. And it can feel very, very uncomfortable. It can feel very, very painful at times. As always, guys, thank you for your support over on Patreon. Couldn't do it without the support we get over there, and then also on Ko-Fi, where you could do a one-time donation or monthly support, just like on Patreon. Ko-Fi doesn't take any percentage, which is a blessing. Medicinal foods too, check out them. There's a link on every video. Use coupon code EEA. It gives you a discount, does support the channel. Should be always thinking in terms of detoxing and boosting that immune system, because we are definitely under attack. Cindy, you want to give a ding?
We can do a ding. We can do a ding. We can do a ding.
Okay, Cindy's going to do a ding because we have people that have been requesting it.
Yes, you know what? Here we go. Okay, find a happy place.
Okay.
And we'll leave you with that.
As always, God bless. Namaste.
Namaste.